this is going to be an exercise in hand waving, and I'm really interested to see what you all think. And my goal is to be done by 4. So hang on to your hats. We'll see if we can make this work. So let's talk about enterprise. The thing about enterprises today, and this is changing, right, as many enterprises move completely into the cloud. Most enterprises today are heavy on infrastructure. They've spent years building things, big heavy things like directories and web access management products and RSA secure ID services and all these sort of things. As I said, this may not be the case forever, but for now, many, many enterprises have this big internal core that they've built that they want to try and continue to leverage in future investments. Cloud has already messed with the equation. What we've found at Ping Identity is that enterprises are used to having control. They're used to having a lot of control over what their users do, over what kind of, even what their vendors do, right? They can, especially the big enterprises, can club a vendor until the vendor releases whatever feature it is that given enterprise wants. But what we found now is in the cloud that this isn't the case, and the reason is multi-tenancy. So you have enterprises that are big and expensive and they're worth lots of money, but when they're interacting with a cloud service that's a multi-tenant cloud service, they're just one customer among thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And so the power gradient has changed in the cloud, where the cloud is now dictating to enterprises, no matter how large they are. And the clouds are using APIs and standards in order to homogenize their interactions with various enterprises. Now, the funny thing is, we kind of had a good thing going with SAML, where SAML was good enough for quite some time when it came to interacting with people in remote domains. And then mobile came along. And mobile is a fascinating problem because you have a phone that an enterprise very, very badly wants to control, extremely badly wants to control, and doesn't necessarily know how. Now, that phone may contain information and applications created directly by the enterprise, or it may contain information that is, in fact, still owned by the enterprise, but mediated by a cloud service. So how do you apply a consistent enterprise security policy when you don't know if the data is going directly to the device, you don't know if the data is going to a cloud service before it comes to the device, and you don't have a lot of control over what the cloud service even offers as far as security around the applications, both native and browser-based, on that device. This is really the catalyst for people to make change right now in enterprises, this uncertainty over mobile applications. So what are the options? Well, right now, what we're doing is we're using SAML in the browser to be the sort of the heavy leverage point, where companies like, really led by companies like Salesforce, are making SAML calls into the enterprise to authenticate the user, and then leveraging that identity in their APIs going out to the cloud. Okay. The problem with this is transitive trust. What that means is that Salesforce, the cloud service, is trusting the enterprise and interacting via SAML with the user present, right? Doing an actual authentication with an actual session one time. And then you have a whole entire API-driven infrastructure which depends on Salesforce and not the enterprise. And I will explain this very quickly by going step by step through this chart. All right, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to see the look on your face. All right, I am actually going to step through this in a much more interactive way, so we'll see how fast we can do this. All right, it's going to start with a native app making an OAuth request from the device. Okay, that mobile client is going to actually pop a browser, okay, because we're going to interact with SAML here, right? They're going to pop a browser no matter what, and they're going to make an OAuth call to the cloud service, okay? And if you want me to slow down, I can, but I'm guessing that you're all going to just take my word for this. The cloud service is going to make a SAML request to the enterprise. Okay? Within that SAML request, you've got your issuer, you've got attributes, all this great rich data. What does the user see? The user is going to see on their browser, on their phone, a login page, right, that they identify with, that they understand because it actually belongs to their enterprise. Okay, so this is a common ceremony, right? They know that it's safe, theoretically, to enter their username and password because this is the same login page they go for every application everywhere. Once they authenticate, a SAML response goes back to the cloud service. Again, full of rich, great, lovely data. And the user has to go through a consent step at the cloud service so that they have some concept of what's happening, that they're interacting really with two parties, not just their enterprise, but also their cloud service. And then the cloud service is going to do the little OAuth dance, right? Perhaps in this case, this is an authorization code flow where the native application receives an access token, puts it on their, caches it wherever they're going to cache it, and now they're going to use it at the cloud service API to get the thing they originally wanted to do in the first place. And what do you know? The screen comes up. So that was the same dance that we saw in the swim lane with SAML nested inside of an OAuth request, resulting in a native app getting their status updates for Salesforce chat, for example. Okay, so we touched the enterprise, we touched the cloud service, we're on the native app. Everything seems happy. So what happens now? Okay, this is the first time. That was the first time dance. After this, what do we get? Refresh, refresh, refresh. Okay? After that initial dance, the relationship is between the native app and the cloud service, period. Right? There is no more requirement in many, many cases for the user to talk to the enterprise. And I think it's safe to say that that limits the amount of influence that a SAML or that an enterprise can have with that cloud service. Now, there are many, many ways that this can be solved, right? There are, for example, SCIM is an example of how an enterprise could call out to a cloud service to keep them up to date, right? To deprovision users that perhaps get terminated and so on and so forth. But my hypothesis to you is that these are the things that this nested SAML OAuth relationship can't do. It can't provide that information about a user. So not just about the currently authenticated user, but about the user who holds the access token that could have been authenticated a year ago, for all we know. Right? It can't actively trigger things like deprovisioning events, and it can't actively force re-authentication. These are things that I think OpenID Connect are ideally suited for. So I actually believe that this is our future, is that what we're going to have is no longer a network perimeter, but an API perimeter, and that OpenID Connect forms a basis for cloud services like a Salesforce to pull data from the enterprise rather than having the enterprise push data to all the cloud services. OpenID Connect is uniquely suited to this because we have our user info endpoint, right, which is the user information that all of these services need to consume, right? These services can't do it. They're all publishing their proprietary APIs right now, but if we have a standardized way for enterprises to advertise those APIs, we make everybody's life easier. We have a check session endpoint. So imagine the things that cloud services could do if they knew the user was present at that very moment, right? Again, ideal. This is all ideal. And some of the advanced session management stuff that we could do could be even better, right? I mean, you want to, engage in online chat. Well, this is a mechanism. OpenID Connect provides a mechanism that perhaps could enable some of those more interactive things to happen, even though the last time you saw the user, was when they authenticated weeks or months before. So this is my last slide. This is one example of something I think we could do in the future with OpenID Connect. And on that, I think, unless, Don, you have any big remarks, or if anybody wants to comment on this, pull it to pieces, or Tony?
Yeah, so, not quite sure. I think there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want an open API, right? There is proprietary things that people want to protect, and
sure.
They own the data, and the data is there, and it doesn't behoove a lot of these vendors to actually adopt an API that would expose all this information. I could see it for certain companies that don't have the data currently. They want to get the data, and this is something that they want to push so that they can, have access, to the particular data. But a lot of vendors probably would not support a way that anybody could grab data out of their sets of repositories.
Right. I think there's a big difference between the NASCAR vendors and the rest of us poor sots, frankly.
Maybe these previous descriptions you all talked about as use case mostly seem to apply a whitelist of mobile apps. Not that you can do a great job of identifying the mobile app, but that the enterprise has an API and says okay, only these 2 apps are the only thing that could access it. They're not trying to make the API available to the public. But one of their frustrations is because they can't strongly authenticate a app on a mobile phone. As soon as they create these things, there are the possibility of those backdoors happening. Because it sounded like yours was more of, will the enterprise make it available to, anyone externally? And I think their desire is not to, but it's hard to stop.
Well, even releasing the data is going to be a concern, because once the data is out of whoever holds that data.
But they're only releasing it to the mobile apps of their employees on their corporate mobile phone. So from their perspective, they're only releasing it to themselves.
And once that data is on a different device, we've
then
got
I agree,
these
right?
concerns that have been going around for quite a while. So
fair enough.
Questioning.
If PowerPoint puts the access token in a presentation like that, then don't do it.
There you go. Anyone else?
I think it's a good part to start with, but I have some issues with the whole concept of trust, right? So there is we talk about enterprise.
Yep.
And you're talking enterprise and Salesforce. You're using SAML application generating the tokens to be consumed by Salesforce there. But having this device, what's the guarantee that it's still within that trust domain? And that's because I'm still trying to understand some of the.
Well, usually it's the CEO telling the CSO, screw you.
Yeah.
Or the employees. Honestly, I think it is going outside of that circle of trust in almost all of these circumstances. They wish it was locked down, corporate issued enterprise BlackBerries. They could remote wipe, but it's mostly iPhones and Androids, and they made this decision that value exceeds the risk, but there is now more risk.
But it's just different. It's a certification. You can revoke the old, just as
right.
An alternative you put
So the data in many cases are already
there.
sitting on the device. Right? It's already been copied down, so if you can revoke the token, there's already been instances where data's leaked out of enterprises.
Yeah, and there are numerous ways to do
this. It's the same to the internet.
Or a lost corporate laptop.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect.
Go ahead.
So just as a data point, and I suspect most of you know that this is possible, this Windows 7 phone does have Microsoft, my employer, exert group policy onto it. Because I have my Outlook email on here, the deal I made is they enforce a PIN restriction, and if I enter the PIN wrong 6 times in a row, it will wipe. Not saying that's ubiquitous, but it's a data point in the marketplace.
It's like it was the same. It's the same on the iPad for my one. It has the same setup. It's one of the reasons it's not Android yet, so it doesn't have that historical phone.
Right. Go ahead.
So I had a question. So this is the enterprise future with the enterprise in control. would it be fair to say that there's also the future for the consumer, and so would the consumer future analogy of this be the actual user is in control of that and can sit in the middle to say, hey, I'm on a plane, I want to deauthorize my identity or my device got stolen, that it would presumably be the user that would do that. Is that the...
I think that's what UMA is working towards. I'm not sure I'm qualified to say yes or no, but.
I mean, I would say they're already, when you go to Facebook or Google or Yahoo and revoke a lock tokens, you've issued 2 installed apps, mobile apps, web apps, etc. So you already have the stepping stones to that.
So I noticed that Paul Manson's password was obfuscated. Is the rumor true that it's actually I love OpenID Connect?
No, it's orthogonal. Guaranteed. Everyone should go try that. All right, well, so like I said, this is, we'll see if this comes to pass. I think there are some realisms that have to be brought to bear, but, maybe next year I'll update you on how this goes.
Thank you, Pam.
Thanks, guys.